Welcome to Arizona Barrio Stories and Latino USA TV. Thank you for being a part of this platform. Thank you for your submissions of your stories and your pictures. We love them. We are here today with Jack Litwak from Litwak Law Group. He is giving us some information that's kind of serious. It's a subject matter that we may not want to talk about, but we need to talk about. And I want to say thank you for being a part of our familia. Thank you for being our new hermano. Have you learned any new Spanish words?
A little bit. Hermano, brother.
Yes. Gotcha. Thank you for being a part of our familia. Thank you for bringing a subject matter that we really need to know about. And today, what do you have for us today?
So we're going to be talking about domestic violence, obviously from a broader conceptual perspective, and then the minute details of legal allegations and domestic violence allegations.
I think domestic violence is sometimes a hush-hush type of things among family. I mean, you might know somebody within your family, but you tend to, and I'm looking at it from a woman's perspective, you kind of stay out until you wait for somebody to ask for help, which is unfortunate because sometimes it's too late. So as we begin today, tell me, what is considered domestic violence?
So domestic violence is intimate partner violence. It's basically a cycle or system of control and power by the perpetrator over the abused. That power and control could be financial, could be physical, could be through isolation, things of that nature.
When we think of abuse, I think a lot of people think physical, and they don't think about other parts, that other, the taking of power away from somebody. So again, what are other type of abuses that you've encountered in your law firm?
So domestic violence encompasses all different types of offenses, but in terms of the different type of abuse that we see, not just legally with the offenses alleged, we see emotional abuse. I mean, emotional abuse is very significant, mental abuse, things like that, because that brings the person down to a point where they don't feel comfortable leaving or telling family members about what's going on before it actually escalates to physical violence. So the mental and emotional abuse that goes down is very significant in the beginning, usually of the cycle, before it escalates to physical violence. In addition to that, you've got things like, financial abuse, abuse of custody over the children or the time that somebody may have with children. Anything that the perpetrator can control, that is a form of abuse that the person being abused may go through. So not only just mental, emotional, physical, but also abuses of different things that the perpetrator has control over, like the finances, possibly time with the children, time with other family members, things like that.
I think we had kind of talked off camera a lot of times, whether it's female or male, a lot of times they isolate themselves and you really don't know what's going on because they keep to themselves and they have no contact with family or friends. And it's a sad situation because then later on you say, well, I didn't know. So, I'm sure that when you look at the different types of abuse, isolation is one thing people tend to turn to.
Yeah, and there's a number of other things, obviously. I mean, you've got the physical abuses of slapping, punching, hitting, kicking, also strangulation. Obviously when things begin to escalate, strangulation is a significant thing. You've also got something that may happen early on during an argument, could be damaging property of another or throwing property at the other person. Showing up to the person's workplace, harassing them, showing up to events that they're at with their friends because they want to control what they're doing and know that they're there. Those are different types of abuse that we see as well.
Why do you think victims stay in abusive relationships?
That's a really good question. So there's a lot of research related to that. It's important to note that statistically speaking, about 1 in 3 women will go through some form of domestic violence, and about 1 in 10 men, a stat that I looked at right before this filming, go through some form of domestic violence. So it is very common, and it's important for people to realize that, it's happening to other people very frequently. You just need to figure out how to get out of the cycle. The cycle is why people don't leave the domestic violence type of relationship. So You'll start with, the normal aspects of the relationship, but go through the different variations of control that the abuser has. Then you get to the abuse incident, where it could be that physical type of abuse. And then after that, there's a honeymoon phase where the person who perpetrated the abuse, or the abuser, may try to sweet talk the other individual, let them know that they're going to change.
I won't do it again. I'll change. I'll change.
And that's a lot of times what keeps the abused in the relationship. Fear of losing their home, fear of losing their children, fear of losing the financial resources that the abuser is possibly controlling. That's another reason. Shame. I mean, I talked about how common it was, because it's important for people to realize that they shouldn't feel ashamed. If it happens, it's not your fault. But a lot of times, victims of domestic violence often feel like it's their fault because they have been made to feel less than. Whether you're a man or a woman, also children. Obviously, if you've been abused as a child, I see that a lot with a lot of clients that I have. They often feel ashamed and feel like it's their fault. It's not your fault. But those are some of the reasons why people stay in the domestic violence relationship.
I like what you said about children. Coming from an educational perspective, I was a teacher, and I'd have parents come to me, and say, well, I can't get out of this situation financially. I can't do it. I have to stay, which is sad, because the children end up, getting the brunt, and they visually have to see the situation. So it's just sad on both ends. So how would you advise somebody? What would you say on how to get out? What do they do? What would you recommend?
If you see red flags in the relationship, you're starting to observe different patterns of control, right? The person's trying to control your finances, trying to control the accounts, trying to control the bills. Things start to escalate, arguments start to escalate. You need to make a plan. Plan needs to be associated with, if it's an absolute emergency, you need to call 911. If it raises or escalates to a level where you feel there's going to be physical violence perpetrated on you, or you feel like you've been the victim of a crime, you need to call 911. That's what they should be there for, is to avoid an actual emergency. Before calling 911, there's other ways, because calling 911 could potentially escalate the situation, especially if there's that little honeymoon phase in between when the police arrive to when the initial call was made. So other avenues of escape, contacting different types of resources to figure out if you have a place to stay or can get a place to stay if you're going to leave. Having all of those things lined up will empower the person, if they've been an actual victim of domestic violence, to make the decision to then finally leave. So getting the resources of housing, income, things of that nature, talking to different family members. If things start to escalate or you see these red flags, it's important to set up that type of plan so you have the ability to escape.
Are you aware of any agencies or within Maricopa County or Phoenix area that has something for people, an outreach type of program for people that go through this?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's the City of Phoenix Family Advocacy Center, which the number there is 602-534-2120. And then the National Domestic Violence Hotline is 1-800-799-7233. Those are two different types of resources. The City of Phoenix Family Advocacy Center, if you're in Phoenix, and there's different advocacy centers within cities in the major metropolitan area of Maricopa County. Also, the Maricopa County Sheriff's website has resources, and the Maricopa County Law Library has resources for people to start to facilitate that plan of action to leave if you feel you've been a victim of domestic violence. The Law Library in particular has good resources if you need to fill out an order of protection, so you can obviously keep the person from contacting you again or contacting your children.
And those are free documents?
Those are free resources, absolutely, yeah.
Are you available, say, for if it escalates and there's somebody that needs to reach out to your law group? Are you available?
Absolutely. So at my law firm, we represent both sides. So if you have been a victim of domestic violence and you need to fill out an order of protection, we help victims of domestic violence with their orders of protection. My number is 602-609-3803. You can call me for free advice about having to fill out or what to put in. The order of protection will walk you through that process. Another really important thing is, if it's done properly in the beginning and you write down the specific act of domestic violence that warrants the order of protection, it will help you better prepare your case if the perpetrator contests the order of protection. We do a lot of contested order of protections on both sides. So if you've been a victim and the other person, the perpetrator, contests the order of protection, you got to show up and you have to present evidence. We're here to empower victims. We'll walk you through the whole process, prep your testimony, prepare the evidence the way that it needs to be prepared. As experienced trial lawyers, that's what we do. These are mini trials, so we'll prepare the victim so they're empowered to go there and put on the evidence that they need to make sure that the order of protection stays in place. On the other end of it, we've also had victims who have been further victimized when a perpetrator fills out a vindictive order of protection against them, where we have to go and contest the order of protection. We've had people file frivolous orders of protection. We go and we contest those orders of protection as well. That gives us an opportunity to cross-examine the person making the allegations. So, we're a free resource if you want to call us, just about actually filing the order of protection. And then if you need to contest the order of protection, we're available to be hired for that.
Jack, I want to thank you. Empowerment is the keynote here, trying to give people back their power once they feel, like you said, they're ashamed. It's a subject matter that needs to be addressed, and I want to thank you for helping us today.
Of course. Thanks, Irma.
Well, you heard it. He's here to help you. Hopefully, this is not your situation, but if it is, don't be ashamed. We want to help you. This program here, Arizona Barrio Stories, we want to educate you and give you the tools you need to survive a situation. This may be you, or maybe it's somebody you know. Reach out, contact us, contact Jack. We are here to help you. Thank you from Arizona Barrio Stories and Latino USA TV. Thank you, and hopefully we will see you soon.